Uros, welcome to podcast. I really appreciate you being here. And before we say anything, I want to congratulate you on extremely successful 2020 and signing your first UFC contract. So congratulations and good job, man.
Thank you, Dino. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm happy to be talking to you again here. Thank you. Yeah, I had a good 2020. As I said, not a lot of people had an opportunity and had a time and place to say where they had a really good year. We had a tough year, and a lot of people have suffered through the coronavirus. So I can certainly say that I had a good year, and I'm happy and proud about it. So thank you very much.
Absolutely, man. You're welcome. But something that we said on a previous recording when we got broke down, I think that biggest thing that I want to congratulate you on is something that not many people had experienced in their life that you did in basically 27 of your lifespan, which is pretty short compared to how long people live. So 5 years ago, I believe it was 2015, probably like May, April, June, something like that. You left your country, you left your family, you left your friends, your language, your city, everything that you ever felt comfortable with, that you had the peace with. You left that, moved to a completely different country. You came to United States. You actually picked Alaska out of all the states that you could have picked, where a bunch of Serbians and Croatians and Bosnians are, like Chicago and Miami and New York and Seattle. You went to middle of nowhere and you started your life. And 5 years later, you signing the contract, which probably has much more details that I want to dig into. But before that, I really, really want to congratulate you, because people like you are the people that we want to learn from, because you left your comfortable zone and you worked hard to the best of your ability is in uncomfortable zone. And I think that's amazing. So congratulations, man.
Thank you, Dino. As you said, I moved into a new environment. My English was not as good as today. My knowledge of how the system of United States works was almost close to none. Everything I knew about this country was from movies and video games and TV shows, which, I mean, you can learn a lot nowadays, but, it's still absolutely new, so it wasn't easy. I can't say it was easy, but it was worth it, and it was probably one of the best things that I've ever done for myself in these past 10 years of my life, where I am somewhat conscious of my actions and what I've been up to. I had some vision of what I'd like to do in my life. That vision became clear a little after I moved into United States. I can say that I am blessed, that I have been safe, that I have been without injuries, that I haven't, got hit by a car or something like that, that some unlucky people have had happen in their lives. So there's been a little bit of luck in my life, and there's been a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice, and then the opportunity met the preparation. And here we are, 2021. It's off to a good start. We got a fight coming up in about 7-8 weeks, and I'm in California getting ready for it right now, and I feel pretty good.
That's good, man. That's good. But take me back. I really want to know the story when you were actually back in Serbia. I want to know Uros Medic, the guy from Serbia in Novi Sad, or in Union in English. I want to know that guy before you got in the plane and start flying towards basically middle of nowhere for you at that time.
I didn't really know what to expect. It was an adventure for me. It was also me wanting to get out of that comfort zone to see what is it that I like more. I'm a friendly guy. I have a lot of friends in Serbia. I have a lot of friends now here in the United States. But in that comfort zone, I was influenced a lot by my friends and family members. And I would always, do things that people would invite me to do if we were to go see soccer games, if we were to go see basketball games, if we were to go train kickboxing, if we were to go, those are the things that I kind of got into through my friends and family members. And a love for the sport and love for the martial arts came through my family, and my dad first started me and my brother off with judo. Later in when I was a kid, my aunt would bring me and my brother to these it's not a circus, but it's like a big event where Tibetan monks have their showcase of their martial arts and how they do things. Then one of the first movies I've seen in my life in the movies was Matrix, which has a lot to do with that martial art. The whole thing about martial arts is kind of followed me through my life in the shadow, and it kind of came up to light as I separated from the crowd, and I started living on my own and trying to find myself in where do I fit in the most. And my life would always bring me into the gym. It would bring me into the martial arts. It would bring me into the fight gym, and I would find people that I feel comfortable around. I would find new friends there. I would find people that have things in common with me, and it was always easy and natural. I didn't have to try. I didn't have to it wasn't awkward, or it wasn't it was just a natural, calm setting where I would find some peace. So that's kind of what it's been like without me consciously knowing it before I have left to United States. So to take you back, and before leaving to United States, I was just a kid like any other kid. I would get in trouble, not necessarily because I wanted to, not necessarily even because I instigated trouble. It was mostly because I hung out with wrong people, and I didn't get in trouble where we would, break the law, go steal, or do some stupid stuff like that. No, nothing that crazy, but some small fights or leaving the school, missing out on classes, and some stuff like that almost every kid goes through. Some goes to extreme way, some go to less extreme way. I was kind of always in the middle, trying to find that balance, and that's kind of how I feel like looking back at it right now. It was always that middle borderline. Oh, is it going to be a failure, or he's going to be a normal kid? It was always kind of close to the borderline. So my parents were worried a lot, but I wasn't. I kind of felt like I have a good understanding of what's right, what's wrong. And if I did get in trouble a lot of times, it was mostly because of my friends and people I hung out with, which I can say with confidence that that's a lot of kids nowadays. The influence of people you surround yourself is much greater than people can understand until they reach a certain age. But if you hung out with the wrong people at some younger age and you don't get to understand that until later, it might be too late for you after you committed this or that, and you are marked for life. So for people that will be watching some of this, and for people that might find themselves to be in a similar position, finding the balance in life is, I feel like, one of the greatest things that you can do, regardless of, what path you choose to go with.
I think you're right, and especially when you look at I look back and I look at what's going on in our country, and we are very much people that we like to judge before we see everything, and not even just our country, that's any person in the world. Like, we usually tend to judge before we see, right? So me seeing Uros 10 years ago, somebody would say, hey, this kid, he's not going to do anything, I saw him fighting. But they didn't see you in a gym, they didn't see you working hard, so they can't actually know that you're going to be successful. So environment that you were in plays a big role. Like, for example, like you just said, your environment. I had a great environment. You know, my mom was a coach. My dad was always motivating. My coach and the environment I was in was always pushing. So I never even have a feeling that I'm doing anything in contrast of just being successful, just going towards success. And that's my path to United States was very smooth. Like, I haven't experienced any issues coming here where, like you're saying that, you know, you had the friends that you guys were going out, a little bit of a trouble, a little bit of that. So you had to balance it. Like, you were actually had to be strong and stay focused on where you want to go, because you had the side of your friends that were, you know, pulling you towards the left, and then you had your dreams that were pulling you on the right, which I think is great that you found the balance. And I think that's very important in life to find a balance. But how was that moment when you left Serbia? Like, you left Serbia and you're flying to Alaska and you're landing in Alaska.
Yeah.
Like, how's that?
So at that moment, I didn't really know what to expect or how long I will be in the United States. You know, it was more of I'm going for this short adventure. I should be back within the 6 months or so, and that's when I kind of realized, like, this is like, you know, I want to be a professional athlete. I want to be a fighter, because I joined a gym there. You know, that's where I kind of started seeing clear, like, okay, this is the path I want to go to. And I went to talk to some people in the gym, and I told them, like, I'd like to be a fighter, you know, and that's where I kind of figure out, like, this is what's gonna be like in the next few years, you know. I didn't leave Serbia knowing, hey, I'm not coming back. I'm leaving my comfort zone. I left Serbia knowing I'm going to be back in a few months. And I didn't even say a proper goodbye to my family members, to my friends. I'd be like, yo, I'll get you guys in a few months. You guys be safe, be good. I'm going to go have some fun and work, and I'll be right back, you know. And then after I separated myself from my comfort zone, as, you know, we say it, I realized that I don't really want to be the guy that's going to wait for his friends to call him out on Saturday night to go clubbing. You know, I don't want to be the guy that's going to spend time in the local bars that, you know, all of my friends do, some of my family members, you know, I just didn't want to be that guy. I learned that there's more to life. I learned that I can do anything I put my mind to, as long as that's right and valid, and I have a, you know, fair and decent goals. So that's kind of where and it hit me hard. Like, I was by myself. I remember New Year 2015 I was by myself in the apartment. Like, I didn't know many people. I was in Texas visiting my friend Chris, but my friend Chris was in Germany. He left for holidays, right? And I was there by myself. I didn't really want to go out or celebrate. I didn't want to get drunk, because, as I said, I wasn't that guy anymore, going out clubbing or doing anything. So I'm sitting there in the apartment. What I did was I wrote some things down. I started writing about what happened in the past 6 months. What do I want to do? What do I want to be? And just kind of vent out, you know, flush the things, because I wasn't really sure, what am I doing? And that was kind of a turning point where, like, okay, this is going to be it. I am going to commit myself to being a professional athlete and a fighter, and I will live this life until, you know, I will make it my lifestyle until I make it out there. And from there, you know, things changed, and I just kept working for it.
That's interesting, because every person has such a different moment of realization of what they want to become, especially when it comes to the athletes. Like, you came to United States and you're planning to come back in 6 months, and how much money, actually, I want to ask you this before I say anything, how much money you had in your pocket when you landed in Alaska?
I had about $600. I had $1,000. I had to put down $400 for the apartment I was lined up for. And so I had about $600 in my pocket and one suitcase. And I bought a air mattress for like 20-30 bucks. That's what I slept on for the first 6 months. I got a job and I worked, and then I decided to visit a gym. After that, I did some traveling. I worked through the whole summer. I made some money. I saved up. I did a little bit of traveling to kind of see, United States, to see outside of Alaska, because Alaska's kind of closed out. A lot of people would like, oh, Alaska's not the United States. It's still pretty much the same, besides not having Chick-fil-A or some other things, it's pretty much the same. But yeah, I did, travel a little bit. I went visit my friend in Texas. I visited Hawaii for a little bit. I trained at the UFC gym there. They wanted me to stay there, and they're like, we're going to get you some fights. You should stay with us. And I told them, like, guys, I really don't have nothing in my life right now. I don't have a job. I don't know, like, what's my status going to be like. I don't know anything. I can't just like stay here, So later going to Texas, visiting my friend Chris, and then going over to back to Alaska and talking to the gym again at Anchorage Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's where I kind of decided to, all right, this is it. We're going to be a fighter.
That's just interesting. I feel like, first of all, landing in Alaska with $1,000. Yeah. I'm just always, a lot of people, I had even similar situations with you, and we probably all have the people who came from, different countries with no parents here, nothing. We have to build everything from the scratch. So I get it. And it's interesting how much we don't need to have to make it happen. And even when the worst years happen, like a COVID year, all of us that I know that are, the people who came from different countries to United States, everybody figured it out, because I feel like we're not used to not having a solution. We always had to find a solution. There was never a moment of us saying, hey, I don't know what to do. It's like, I can't think about that. Like, I have to find a solution right now, right away. So you landing in Alaska with $1,000, $400 down for apartment, you had $600. If we ask any, person who lives in the United States and tell him, hey, I'll give you $1,000 and you're going to go to Europe and figure yourself out, they're going to freak out.
Yeah, that's not easy. Yeah, it's not easy, but nothing. I feel like nothing's easy in life, and nothing comes easy. And if something does come easy, you probably won't appreciate it as much as you would if you had to, put your mind into it and work hard for it. So, $600 is not a lot of money, but $600 can get you so far if you're willing to, live below your means, buy only essential food that you needed. And that was only for a couple of weeks before I started working, so $600 was enough money for me. And it's more money in my pocket than I had when I was in Serbia. So I wasn't making a great deal of money there, So $600, I would manage. I could manage for $600, Nowadays I have a lot more expenses and my life is, quite different than it was. But yeah, it certainly isn't easy, but it is manageable as long as you are willing to, put your mind into it.
What were the jobs so when you were in Alaska and you started working, I'm guessing in 5 years span, you had to change a couple of jobs. That's my wild guess. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I worked as a server in Texas Roadhouse. I worked as a server in an Italian restaurant. I worked on construction for one summer. I have worked maintaining lawns, cutting grass. I have worked, trying to think. I fished for one summer. We were catching fish in Alaska. That was a quite interesting experience. Alaska has some of the highest quality salmon that there is in the world, and that was a really nice experience. I really enjoyed it. I didn't make a great deal of money in neither of those jobs, but I was making a living, until later I started doing sales and I started selling cars. That's where I started making some more money, where my life kind of started improving a lot better. And in the meanwhile, I kept training. I was teaching kids boxing. I was teaching kickboxing classes. I kept training jiu-jitsu. I kept training MMA. I was always active as far as my sport goes. So that was one thing that kind of kept me sane. You know, it's like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. Regardless of what job I have, I still got my gym, you know. I would change jobs, but I still got my gym.
I mean, that is great. I love these stories because I always find something in a people that are going to become successful or they are already successful. And the common thing with all the successful people is that no matter of what happens, they just keep going, right? So you work as a server and then you change restaurant and then you work as a construction. By the way, that probably sucked.
Yeah, I did not enjoy it. I did not enjoy that for sure. But, you know, it was a learning curve. You know, you got to figure out which jobs fit your wants and needs. I worked in a bank as a teller at one point, only because I could get off at 6 o'clock and go to gym. And I would sit down, I open up Craigslist and I think about what job can I do that will pay me enough that I can make a living and I can spend time in the gym. And I'm looking at the schedules and what does it work, how does it work. And turns out that bank jobs is like 10 to 5, 10 to 6, 9 to 6, you know, something like that. And my class starts at 6 and I'm late 15 minutes. I explained to my coach that situation is like that. I'm working in a bank and I will be always late 15 minutes, no problem. As long as you're here, we're working. And I did that for probably 6 months. I worked in a bank, I think, before I went fishing for that one summer. But yeah, I wasn't making a great deal of money, maybe $14 an hour or something. And, you know, Alaska is a fairly expensive place to live. $14 an hour can only get you so far. But it was also, you know, a learning curve for me. I learned a lot about banking. I learned about credit cards. I learned about, you know, how to manage financial situations and, you know, some basic stuff that you learn in the bank as a teller. I thought about continuing with career like that, but being a fighter was always the most important thing to me and the most appealing thing to me. So I would always go back to the gym again.
You know, when I listen to you, there is one thing that comes to my mind. And that's part of Eminem's song that he says in the beginning, if you had one shot, one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted, would you capture it or would you let it slip? So your story is, hey, I have this talent. Maybe I'm not the talentest person in the world. Maybe I'm not the strongest. Maybe I'm not the fastest. But I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm going to be ready when the opportunity shows up. There was a great, I feel embarrassed forgetting his name. But there was a dude, and he said this sentence. He said, it's better to be ready and not have an opportunity than have an opportunity and not be ready. And I think that's a very, very powerful and a very simple statement. Mm-hmm. You picked your priority. You said, I want to be a professional fighter. And then you kept working on it. You wouldn't put that on a side. That was your priority. But at the same time, you were balancing other things that you had to do to survive. But here is the thing. A lot of people go to work every day and they have dreams. But when they're done with the work, they say, well, I have to rest because I'm tired, or I have to do this or that, and I can't go to practice, or whatever the thing is. People want to become a YouTube stars or movie stars or whatever. But every time after they do the full-time job or the part-time job or whatever, anything that happens, they always find an excuse not to have energy for what their dream is. And when the opportunity shows up, they're just not ready. It's not that they didn't have opportunity. They were not ready, so they couldn't even recognize the opportunity. But you did. So I love to hear these stories. Yeah,
thank you. I certainly did, and I knew it was coming. I had, there's a lot of things I really don't share to public, but I knew this was coming. I have messages in my DMs. I have messaged a certain athlete 2018 in June, congratulating him on his victory and making a statement that within 2 years he will see me on the big screen. That athlete never seen the message. I never got, you do have a scene. He'd never seen the message. He never replied to it. I went back, this was a few nights ago. I went back through my inbox. I went back to the bottom of it, just looking what I've been up to I had time. I had an empty mind. I'm like, all right, let's check this out. Let's see what's on there. Because there was hundreds of messages that I did not reply to. Some fans, some people that I know, some people that I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of messages, people congratulating me, wishing me well, replying to my stories. And I'll, use this opportunity for whoever is looking. I know there's a lot of people that I never got back to. And I try to reply to a lot of them. But there's hundreds and hundreds of those texts, and sometimes it's draining mentally to go through it and reply to people. Same thing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for your support. I can't do it. I get to it sometimes when I'm bored. I get to it. Anyways, I go to the bottom of my inbox, 2018 June. I send a message to this guy making a statement that I will be on the big screen within 2 year tops. That was June 10th of 2018. August 2020, 2 years and 2 months, I was on ESPN Plus getting my contract. So writing things down, thinking about those things and staying on top of it, the universe will make it happen for you. Besides you working for it, and staying healthy, there's all those stars have to align. You got to work for it. You got to stay healthy. You got to not break your leg. You got to not get hit by a car, as I said. Those are the little things that we don't pay attention to. You got to not climb that tree that you thought it was fun and then you fell and you broke your arm. Those are the things that will change your life forever. My dad, he was an athlete. He was a very good athlete, a champion of Serbia, Yugoslavian medalist in javelin throw. Very, very, very successful, very good. They were picking cherries on a tree and somebody yelled, "Oh, there's Grandpa coming. We got to run." He jumped off the top of the tree, broke his leg, ended his career. And he could have been, I don't know, he could have been an Olympian. He could have, he was committed to it. But those are the things that drastically change our path in life, and those stars have to align for someone like me or someone like you or a third person. You got to be somewhat lucky and you got to have that opportunity that meets the preparation, And if that happens, the chances for success at that certain moment are drastically higher than, in some other situations. I lost my train of thoughts. What I was saying before this.
What do you want to say?
Remember. No, I was going somewhere with something, and then I got to break a leg thing, and then I lost my train of thoughts completely. And that happens to me a lot. When I just get into that rabbit hole of thoughts. Yeah, I just remembered. Yeah, and within 2 years and 2 months, I did it. I sent him a message making a statement that I'll do that. 2 years, 2 months, I did it. 2013, I posted a link on Facebook stating that I will go one day to Hawaii. I want to go to this place. I want to see it. I want to experience it. 2013, I knew nothing about going to America. I knew nothing about the opportunities that life will bring me. I knew nothing about anything 2013. That was 7-8 years ago, I was barely 20 years old, and making a statement like that only several years later, I am on Hawaii learning how to surf, and the power of writing things down is just enormous, somewhere in the universe that stays when you make that statement, and when you are true to yourself about it, and you're not making a statement, I will be a multi-billionaire. That means nothing, you might, but odds are, 0.1, 0.00001 for you to become an actual winner. Making a realistic goals and making small goals, such as I will travel to this place, which is fairly realistic. All you got to do is get some deal of money, buy yourself a ticket, and then you made your goal happen, and the small victories like that will teach you how to set those higher goals and achieve those greater things. You have to appreciate and understand the small victories, the daily victories. I have made my schedule happen. I have got up at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning. I had my breakfast on time. I had my lunch on time. I did my training session. I went to school. I did read for 30 minutes, you know, those are just, and if you look at it as, oh my God, I got to do it, you know, you're not enjoying it. If you look at it as, okay, this was a successful day for me. I made some small victories along the way. You know, now it's over. It's time for me to rest my body and rest my mind, off to a next day, off to new victories, you know, and that's how I look at it. And that's what I try to preach, enjoying those small victories, because that's what life is all about, is that thing that happens to you while you make some, you know, other plans while you, and when you were saying how I have had my priority and working this job while doing other things, you know, Oprah Winfrey said the great thing. She said, you do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do. And that's exactly what I did. And I have been a part-time athlete for years and years and years. I've been a student and a part-time athlete. I have been a worker and a part-time athlete until a few months ago, when first time in my life I can be a full-time athlete and fully commit to this. And now my chances of growing have doubled, tripled, quadrupled, you know, growing in the means of learning new skill as far as martial arts, getting in better shape, getting more sleep in, you know, knowing that the path is so freaking clear now, you know, I have my fight book. This is what I have to do. This is how my path is clear. There's nothing else I need to look for except the March 6th fight. You know, I have my Sunday. I had, you know, cheap meal or whatnot, small little victories along the day. My weight is good. I'm in good shape. All I'm looking towards is increasing my skill set, getting into better shape, and having the fight done properly, you know, and that comes with time, work, dedication, you know, all those things that pretty much everybody talk about, everybody that have done something worth mentioning or talking about, that's the first thing they will tell you. Of course, there's a great deal of luck that will happen along the way, but, you know, fortune favors the bold. Is that how they say it?
You know, it's interesting because a lot of people, you mentioned making schedules, and a lot of people are afraid of making schedules. It's like, I don't want to be controlled. I don't want to, you know, have everything planned out. I want to have my freedom. I want to have this and that. Well, here's the thing. If you don't have a schedule, if you're not getting in a consistent behavior and a consistent routine, you can't progress into the higher level of whatever the things you're doing, whatever the field of interest is, entertainment, whatever you're doing. If you don't have schedule, it's very hard to follow, first of all, what you have to do, what you already did, and what are you doing right now. So you as an athlete, you know that. So, you know, but for you, this, you know, making a schedules in the beginning was not easy because you have a job that is changing time, especially working as a server. You know, one day somebody doesn't show in, you probably have to be there. So you can't come to the practice that you already planned. So developing that skill of making your schedule actually opens a door to more freedom that people actually understand. It's like once you learn to make schedule and follow it, you find so much more free time than you ever had in your life.
Exactly.
Because what happens is that if you don't follow a schedule, a small stressors that you're picking up on the way towards your goal. Let's say you have a goal and you did this but halfway because you wanted to do something else. So you did your task halfway, then the next task halfway. All those halves that you left, they become stressors now.
Yes.
So now your walk becomes much heavier because you're pulling a bag of stressors. And then you ask yourself, well, now I don't have any free time, nor I have a strength to do things that I love. Which I think that obviously if you know about this and you're talking about this, you probably did a great job of scheduling, you know, how you work, when you eat, when you sleep. so you can get to this level? Is that something that you did, or this scheduling things kind of came after, once you made mistakes and realized, oh shit, I messed up, I gotta start doing this? Like, what happened with that?
So I had to go, of course, through that learning curve of, having to have a proper schedule. One of the most important thing is having the right sleep schedule. People underestimate, and overlook the sleep. That's, for us as athletes, the only performance enhancing drug that you never get popped for is the good quality sleep, and that was one of the main things. So I'd like to stay up at night, I would watch my TV, I would watch some TV shows, or I would play video games, or I would do, and learning how to gradually decrease the screen time, decrease the, wasted time, also came with making mistakes and practicing that's, to follow the schedule. And when you were saying that you have to have that certain schedule, the motto of the gym that I'm a part of, the Anchorage Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, goes discipline equals freedom. So the more disciplined you are, the more freedom you actually have. So if you know your time frames and how much time in the day you actually have and what you have to do for the day, you will get plenty of free time. There's 24 hours in a day. If you can get good 8 hours of sleep, you got plenty of time left to, if you need to work, if you, and bear in mind, you can't do everything every day. You can't have a full day of video games and have a full day of, I did an 8-hour shift. I made great money. I spent half the day video gaming and having my time and eating good food and all that. You can't have that every day. But not having it every day and keeping yourself from it, once you do have it, you will learn to love it and appreciate it more, because, oh, shoot, I was waiting for this. I was waiting for this Saturday to unwind. You can't take this away from me. You can't, I have my Sundays when I relax right now, and nobody can take this me time away from me unless I want to spend it differently. I did a little bit of reading. I did some video gaming with my brother and my friends. We played some Call of Duty. I talked to them, see like what's up back home. I talked to my family a little bit. I got out, I got a coffee, and it's all me time. Everything is what I wanted to do, and that's my freedom. And yeah, there's been days where I've, messed up my schedule, messed up my sleeping schedule, stayed up much longer than I intended to. And it happens even now, not when I'm in the fight camp, because I'm extremely, dedicated to it, but it certainly still happens. And not only to me, it happens to everybody, and that's normal. That's part of being human. And another thing is, when we talk about these things like, oh, this is what it takes for you to be great, this is what it takes for you to do this or that, what I found is most of the people don't really want that. They don't want to be the great one. They don't want to be, oh, I am the one that's committed to my goals. I'm the one, they don't. A lot of people are just happy with 9-to-5 job, which is amazing. I have my parents, they have their jobs they're happy with. I have, a lot of friends that I know, they have their 9-to-5 jobs. They're super happy. They get out on the weekends. They have their investments they made. They bought the house. They bought the car, the little things they look forward to, spending time with the family. And that's normal. That's how it should be. That's what majority of people is like, But then again, there's the other smaller percentage that have some dreams, that have some goals, that are having lack of dedication. That's when you have to utilize some of this stuff that a lot of the people are using, and all of it you can find in books. All of it you can find in psychology books, in any book that's related to athletes, the mind, to samurais, to anything that has that code of dedication. You can find the little tricks and tips of how to make yourself a winner. That's what I feel like I am. That's what I represent myself as, and nobody can take that away from me. And that's only because I lost so much. I have sacrificed, I've lost plenty. I've always felt going through losses and victories as a winner. This is my winning time. I'm learning, I'm getting better, whatever it is, and that's the mindset that, you can adapt to. That's why we have come hundreds of thousands of years as humans, That's why we came this far. That's why we are on top of the food chain, because we can do anything we want, So when Elon Musk says he's going to populate the Mars, you better believe it. If he says that he's going to populate the Mars, he will populate that Mars. And not only Mars, once they start quantum travel, we're going to populate a whole lot more than Mars, And I believe it, that man can do anything he wants. He's the richest man in the world right now. And he's going to be even richer as the whole situation is going, and the drastic change of power is going towards the people that are already in power. They're just getting richer with the whole economy going upside downside. We have the cryptocurrencies taking over. We have so many things are changing drastically fast. I would not be surprised if within 100 years we had a population in Mars. NASA just had pictures published from Mars. It looks like California without any plants on it. It's just little hills. And why, if you can build a city there, it's nothing is, in case of another catastrophe, another war, he said it. We're going to have, a handful of people waiting there to start a new civilization. And, every civilization fall. So we've come to 2,000 plus years of what we have recorded in the books, of our religions, of our history. But there's millions of years of unknown before us, and God knows how many generations and how many civilizations have been, and maybe even left for better. So, we're yet to see.
That's interesting. I love that you like the topic of. I bet you love aliens. I bet that you believe in extraterrestrial life, and I bet that you watch Ancient Aliens.
Oh, I don't watch that, but I do believe in. I do believe in extraterrestrial. There's been a lot of things on this planet that we cannot explain. Whether you call it a god, whether you call it an alien, whether you call it a spirit, whatever you call it, there's something that's higher power, something that has better control, something that has, control of everything. Now, whether that affects you as a single person or all of us, I don't know, but I do believe that there is something, and I think that it's belief what have gotten us this far. Being on top of this food chain is the belief for something great, the belief for something that's higher than us. But because without the belief, what are we? Like, what is this all about? If we have no belief that there is something greater and better, that there is the greater good, something, like God, what's this all about? You show up, out of nowhere, you're born, you live, you die, and it's like, if you didn't believe, what did you do on this planet Earth? Like, you're just a fossil fuel. That's kind of my understanding of that spiritual way of things.
That's interesting, but I want to go back to the thing that you said about that you can find a way of doing certain things, and you can always know, like, if you're interested in becoming a better in something, like if you're a person who's fine from 8 to 5, you want to work from 8 to 5, and you don't want to do anything else, and you just want to come home, spend time with your family, that's great. If that's what makes you happy, I think that is great. And like you said, there's you shouldn't feel ashamed about it. That's amazing.
Yes.
Like, you can't feel like that. You're not that guy. You're not going to calm down until you get the answers to the aliens exist. You're not going to get calmed down until you become a UFC champion, until you, and not necessarily UFC champion, but until you reach your better next. And we live in probably, definitely the best era that, our civilization lived in. And there is a most powerful word that you can say today for anybody who is lost. And this is the first help that can help anybody. And it's called Google. Google it, right?
Exactly.
If you feel lost and you don't know how to start and you want to become, let's say, a UFC fighter, Google it. How to become a UFC fighter. First thing is going to pop that it's hard. Okay, so you write down it is going to be hard.
Exactly.
Then you go, how long do I have to work out to sign a UFC contract? It's right there, the second row. It's probably the second row. Then the third row is going to be videos on YouTube. UFC for the beginners. And there's going to be videos for you to start. You did not have that. And you're fairly young. People before you absolutely had not that. They had to make majority of more mistakes to actually get to the point to realize where they're making mistakes. People who were fighting 20 years ago, now they're realizing that there are actually more efficient ways of training.
Yes.
And in 100 years from now, if the sport still exists, we are going to figure out that there are even more efficient ways.
Exactly.
So now when everything is available to you, you come home and you tell me that you don't have resources to start. You don't need resources. They're on your Google. And if you don't have a phone, go find a person who has a phone. Stand on the street and show somebody that you have that desire to become a successful guy, girl, whatever you are. So if I have a guy who is lost, I know at least thousands of ways that I can count in one day that you can find a way how to become successful. It's just a matter of, are you going to get out or you're not going to get out? So I think that you're right. And I don't blame those people because maybe they're not lucky as you and I, that we had somebody to teach us these things, that we had some support to help us grow and put us in the right direction. Because I feel bad for people who don't have parents that teach them these things. Like things that we speak now is things that we taught from our environments. And those kids that don't have these environments are potentially very successful individuals in any field of they want to do. So I feel for them. And I think that's something that socially has to be fixed for them to have a better opportunity. But for people who have an opportunity and have the resources, but are not able to recognize them, for them, as this word, Google it, go out, find it out. So yeah, man. But what I want to ask you is that I want to go back to UFC fight. This is the moment I want to know what happened. So I see 3 Uros Medic. I don't know how to say your name in English. Uros, because you can't add this.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. So, yeah. Uros is, it's just fine.
There is 3 Uros. There is one before America, then there is the one before UFC, and then there is a Uros after UFC.
Yeah. Well, the one after UFC is yet to come. Let's call it 2.5. I am on in the UFC right now. Maybe after the contract would be the third, but this is still a new chapter of my life that I am, in and it's there's definitely drastic changes in my life from the first kiddo that have had a dream. And then one thing that I also forget to mention often is I didn't have such a clear goal of okay, let's go and be a professional fighter. I want to do this, My idea of the thing is, if I was to stick with the fighting, if I was to stick with the gym, the things that will happen through me being in that gym will give me the opportunities. That might be me being a coach, might be me being a gym owner. It might be, I wanted my life to revolve around the sport, around the martial arts. So, of course, the number one thing is I wanted to be a fighter. But the odds of becoming a fighter, are not great. Just like becoming any other professional athlete, it takes a lot of sacrifice, a lot of work, and stuff that we've kind of gone through and talked about. So learning how to stick with that has drastically, as I said, changed my life in those, as you say, there's 3 kind of parts of me that one was a kid that didn't really know a whole whole bunch about anything. The second one was somebody with a little clear, I can't even say it, a little bit of a more clear path. And then the third one was the guy that got his opportunity, that got a shot, and that capitalized on it. Leading into it, I have felt that this is my time to shine, and it's my
leading into the fight. Is that what you think?
Yes, exactly. Leading into the latest, the newest version of me, the best me, today me. It is. I felt that it is meant to be, and it's going to happen. And of course, there's some doubt about it. There's, some sleepless nights, but at the end of the day, it's all mental, it's all in your mind and how you perceive it, how much stress you put and how much thinking you put in one scenario and how much thinking you put in the other scenario. And I kind of try to visualize, and that's what I saw myself. I dreamed about it. I knew it was going to happen. So,
so you worked for 4 years, right? And then 2020 shows up. The starting of 2020, the news of the virus kind of popped out, but nobody took it seriously until like May.
Yes.
And so that year, 2020, was that the first time that you kind of got the sense that the Contender Series are going to have your name on? Or, that maybe happened before, but you were not ready? I don't know how the things work in UFC. And if I'm the guy who don't know how that actually works, I want you to tell me, like, what is that process like?
The process is pretty simple. You have to win the fights. That's all that it comes down to. You have to win the fights. At the end of the day, that's show business. So you have to be a little bit of a showman. But what they care most about is you knowing how to fight, So I planned on applying and joining the Contender Series through however I could in 2019. And we talked about it in my gym. We talked about it. And I told them, like, okay, this year we don't do it. Next year we got to do it, And I knew that within those 2 years, couple years, this is going to be my shot. The thing about this professional sport is everybody get their shot eventually. If you work long enough for it, you get your shot and you can show what you're, made of. If some stars align, that's it. If it doesn't, you might get your shot again. You might never get it again. You never know. But one shot for sure you will get. As far as leading into the UFC, I knew that my shot is coming. For my 5 minutes where I get to show my skill set, where I get to show my mentality, where I get to show my heart, that will happen. When that happens, I will do my best to be ready for it. So I didn't know leading up to the 2020, I didn't know whether that's going to happen or how things are going to work out. I got in touch with a manager. He reached out to me wanting to sign me. And he tried to get me a fight. We try to go to what was it? Detroit. There was talks about going to Detroit to fight. That was
2019, right?
That was 2020, actually, end of 2019, okay. Beginning of 2020. There was talks about going to several different places. I went to Hawaii on a tryout for a different promotion. Luckily, they didn't sign me. For some reason, they had an event on Hawaii that was specifically made for like the Hawaiian guys, because that's where the crowd is going to pay to come and see them, because they're all Hawaiians, So they didn't sign me there. And after that, my second shot was Contender Series. They needed a fighter. I was more than happy to fight, even though I wasn't in the best shape of my life. I was always training, and at the time, the gym was closed. So I was training outside, climbing the hills, running uphill, being in the snow.
So when was the date when you got, sorry to interrupt you, but I want to know, when was the date when you got the information, hey, you are going to be going to Contender Series?
20 days before the fight.
20 days before the fight.
Yes.
And then at that time, the gyms were closed.
Yes.
At that time.
Yes, gyms were closed.
How long before that information the gyms were closed?
Gosh, it was off and on thing. Like, It was what it's going to be like. The virus is spreading fast. There's new rules coming every week. Everybody are following the news. So it was off and on. I managed to train in different setting, in different gyms and with different people. I trained outside. I went running. I did whatever I could. I did. So when the time came for the fight, I flew down, and the rest is kind of the history.
I think the fight was amazing. I watched the fight, and to be honest, the leg kick when you place it in his stomach, that sounded like you just took out his soul and his soul flew to another galaxy, to the point where I was like, this dude has to go to the Joe Rogan podcast and tell him, did he meet any aliens in the galaxies? Like, that's how it sounded. Like, his soul went flying.
Yeah. He after a couple of those kicks, he definitely didn't want to be in there anymore, and I feel like that's kind of what is going to meet a lot of other fighters, and then not only the power of those kicks, the precision, and then them worrying about it is what is going to cause even more openings and troubles for a lot of them. So I'm definitely looking forward to what's coming. This was just a fraction of everything. I appreciate your support, first of all, and you watching it, and, all the other people. It definitely got some, brought some dust up from the ground, and people were reaching out to me and wanting to see more. Unfortunately, I got hurt in the meantime. I had to lay off for a month. Because I got so pumped, I started training like crazy. I had no rest, and I hurt myself. Like, it was a dumb thing to do, and I should know better by this time, and being an athlete for so long. But then again, it's always a learning curve for me,
Yeah, I mean, we all make that mistake. And anybody who was an athlete, when the adrenaline comes in after wanting something for so long, it's too hard to control. You actually have to have like at least one person not letting you to do things, exactly. Like locking the gym and putting the bars in the window, because locking the gym is not going to help you. You're going to go inside somehow.
Yeah, that's very true.
That's crazy. But tell me, I think that moment with Dana White, I mean, he's such a famous person. Mm-hmm. He's mainstream media. He's the guy that everybody looks at when he's talking, when he's doing his things. And you just making such a natural communication, even though it was just a very short, kind of brief of a couple of seconds, you were able to show him your personality. Like, you didn't have to chat with him on a coffee for so long. You just show him your personality by saying a couple of words and, showing that gesture of like,
let's get the contract.
I'm gonna sign the contract, and then telling him, put me on a speed dial.
Yes.
Like, did you prepare yourself for saying those things, or just came natural?
No, it was, I didn't really think about any of that. I had one thing in my mind, and that's to win the fight. Depending on how the fight went, then I can flex with it, I would say. If I got my ass beat, I certainly wouldn't flex as much as I did. And when I beat ass, I can, I feel comfortable being more open about it, and wanting that contract, and wanting to fight more, wanting to showcase more. Dana, I didn't really get to talk to him much longer, but the way I look at the guy is he changed the sport forever. This is one of those people that will go down in history. Him, Joe Rogan, the bald men that ran the show. He also had a dream. He saw an opportunity in the fight game when nobody else did. He said that he had a handful of people that believed in it, and he had to go from state to state in the United States and talk to people to try to legalize this, because people would consider it as animal fighting, and they wouldn't let it happen in their states, the governors, these people or that people, regardless. So a man with a vision like that, coming this far, when, again, bringing that story back to the aliens, when you got the little Elon Musks running around 5,000 years from now, bringing people from dead, those are going to be some of the people that they bring back from dead. The people that change this world forever. They change the sport forever. They change, I'm not talking about just a fight game. I'm talking about thousands of jobs that UFC is producing. I'm talking about the whole world sitting in their chairs watching two guys fight in the octagon, and that's something that takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of work, takes a lot of belief in your actions, regardless of what people say. Do you know, just think about it, how many people 20 years ago, 30 years ago would tell you, like, you want that to be the sport? You want these animals to fight on my TV, And of course, over time, there's been regulations, there's been changes. Sport has evolved drastically, But him believing in that 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, whenever, him having the idea, and, he didn't say, oh, I want this to be like that. The road that he took made the shape of, the sport. Oh, we have to do this to make it better. We have to do this to make it better. We have to get these sponsors. We have to get these judges, cage girls, the little things. We have to employ these kind of people. Then building that UFC Performance Institute, that thing is a space shuttle. Like, there is everything you can think of as far as 21st century sports science. Everything is there, from the best trainers in the world, physical therapists, doctors, the little things like this, the Dr. Roman is working on the Aura Ring, where they measure your vitals, where they look at your sleep, they look at your, the way you train, how many calories you burn, and that 20, 30 years ago, if you told somebody things like these, they would look at you and be like, this guy's out of his mind. We have Nikola Tesla in 1800s talking about people wirelessly looking at each other, in a small pocket device in 1890s, how far beyond his time he was, same thing, how far beyond his time Dana was at the time of building the sport, So you got to respect that. You would, regardless of what, you as a fan or not a fan of the sport, or fan or not a fan of Dana, or the guys that built the UFC, regardless of any of that, you have to respect this if you have some common sense, because people like him, people like Jeff Bezos, people like Elon Musk, people like, like the famous scientists throughout the history of the world, they shaped the world as we know it today. So I think that, and I can proudly say my boss is one of those guys, and to me, it's just mind blowing that somebody had a dream like that, pursued it, and achieved it. Of course, again, there's some bit of luck, knowing some right people, being persistent, being healthy, staying on the path. It's just crazy and great at the same time. But, that line between a genius and a lunatic is a pretty thin line. You gotta be kind of stepping into both sides of the world at the same time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can't, like, if you're an extraordinary human being, you can't be normal. Like, normal people do normal things. Crazy people do genius things. Because, like, if you're same as everybody, then you're same as everybody. The moment you shift outside of that normal reality and you enter another realm, you're not normal anymore, and you start seeing things that other people don't see. And like you said, if you see Nikola Tesla, if you see Albert Einstein, if you see Elon Musk, like those guys are not normal.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that even when it comes to athletes. Every successful athlete that I ever met was crazy. It had so many issues that it's unbelievable. And people are trying to say like, hey, you got to calm down, you got to this or that, you got to kind of like balance your life. You can't. If you want to be the greatest as possible in anything you do, you are going to look crazy compared to those who are not as great as you are, because you're on another level.
Yes.
So there is no reason for you to be afraid of being crazy or being called crazy or being different or lunatic or whatever. That's actually a good thing. Yeah. Because that means that you are different, unless you are actually, hopefully not psychologically, ill and actually have some issues, which people do tend to have. So I'm not referring to those people, and hopefully they're going to find a medication and stuff to help everybody on this earth. I want everybody to be happy. But definitely, man, you have to be lunatic. So when we talk about lunatics, I really have a question for you. Who do you like better, McGregor or Khabib?
Khabib, for sure, yeah.
Why is that?
I admire the business aspect Conor has done for the sport, for everybody involved in the sport. Certainly is a great thing. But Khabib is just, to me, he's the greatest ever to, step in the octagon. He changed the game for everybody, and he showed what Dagestani wrestling can do to people. They break their spirits, they break their minds, they break their bones, So yeah, that's kind of my pick always. I like his dedication. I like his family, him being family oriented, very religious. Seems like a fair dude to me. I don't know. I don't know him personally. I've met his manager. His manager had a lot of nice things to say about him. But yeah, as I said, they both are greats. One of the greatest in the sport so far. But I think that from the fighter's perspective, Khabib has definitely done quite a bit more. From the business perspective, Conor has done some great things and made a great deal of money, and kind of won the game, So yeah, I mean, I see those guys as my opponents and my people that I would stand in the octagon against. So it's kind of hard to make them any greater than they are, because I believe that, besides, I don't know, Conor being a better businessman at this point and Khabib being a better wrestler at this point, they're not so much greater than I am. That's kind of my opinion on it, I think with the proper work ethic and given time, I will reach a certain potential where I can stand with those guys in the octagon. But again, by that time, some of them might be retired. Khabib looks like he's done already. Conor, he is fighting once a year for his super fights. He's done very well for himself. He doesn't really have to fight, but he's still got that fighter's mentality. You can't just get away from that, So, very interesting personalities, both of them, based on what we've seen on TV. But yeah, my pick will be Khabib.
That's interesting. I feel like there is such a different perspectives on both Khabib and McGregor, and I feel them both. Like this guy, Khabib, he grew up in a fairly remote area. He was very family oriented, and he was training to such a different training regime. Mm-hmm. I mean, to the point where you can see that he was wrestling the bear. Like that's just, to me, that's so cool. I mean, it's so goddamn cool. But then you have a city kid, almost like a city kid.
Yeah.
And the guy who, from what I'm seeing in the documentary and his interviews, he was poor. And he did not have such a warm, family-oriented environment. Like, he seemed like he grew up in the area where kind of like a city survival was necessary for him to get out. Like, for example, when you were saying that you had to get out of certain, activities that your friends were doing for you to, find a path to becoming successful, he did the same thing. But, he turned into that anger mode because that's what he had to do in such an environment. So I praise them both because they were definitely raised in a different environments, and I love them both. I love McGregor's that hate that he has in himself. Kind of reminds me of a Kobe Bryant, but in a different environment. Like, Kobe had that same kind of, he would bite your ears off if he could have, if he was legal.
Yeah.
Where Khabib would never do that. Like, Khabib would respectfully shake your hands and he would beat, the shit out of you. But then he would drink a beer with you.
Yeah.
That's how I see Khabib. So that's interesting. But I'm glad that you share that perspective. But so, I mean, what's the plan for the future, man? What's the biggest thing you want to accomplish? I want you to tell me what is your dream now so I can have it. And then when you accomplish your dream, I'm going to play back this to you.
Okay. Well, my idea for right now is I want to fight with the best in the world. I want to make a mark and make a statement and have secure my spot as, one of the best there. Whether I'm going to hold the belt or not, I don't know, and I don't dream of right now. I have one goal in my mind at this point, and that's to clear my path on March 6th and take care of the business. After I finish this opponent, I will have my new dreams and my new goals, and that will go on and so forth. And I will not stop dreaming, and I will not stop chasing those goals, because that's how I am. That's how I made it this far, and that's what keeps me going. I love the idea of achieving something I put my mind into and I put my work for. So only thing I can think of right now is that fight. With the time, with work, with the right opportunities, the other dreams will come around that I will put my work for. But as of right now, I only want to take care of this fight, make a statement, and then slowly move forward in the division.
And the fight is on a March 6th.
Mm-hmm.
So on the March 6th, you have your first UFC fight.
Yes.
Official fight.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm going to be watching that, man.
Thank you.
I'm looking for the leg kicks, and I think it's going to be a KO. I know that you don't like people telling you what's going to happen in a fight. I always pick up your body language that you're kind of like, don't tell me anything. Like, I'm not focused on what you're saying. But I think it's going to be like a really nice leg kick KO.
Well, if anything, you called it. You can play it back to me after the fight, but I'm going to give my best to stop him within first or second round.
Yeah, I'll definitely play, but I want you to know I don't care about the next fight. What I care the most about is your road that is going to happen for next 5 years. And if anything I want to see you continually just keep going. No matter what happened in next 5 years, I just want to see you going. And I know that a lot of things are going to happen and a lot of fans are going to show up. And that's all fine. Like, you're going to have people controlling that and you're not going to even be bothering too much about it. But I want to see you keep going.
Yeah.
And just don't stop, man, because you are humbled and you have a very positive energy that I always love that about you. Like, even when we were kids and when I kind of barely knew you, but there was always something about you that I had a feel that you're going to succeed, and that's why I stay in touch with you. And I'm kind of like, I can't wait for it, but I know it's going to happen. So just stay on the course, man.
Thank you, Dino.
A lot of great things are going to happen, man. And I know that you're going to have the belt. I know, I can feel that you're going to have the belt. And when you have the belt, I'm going to play you this video.
Okay.
I promise
you called it. I'm going to keep working. There's nothing that will stand in my way from me trying to achieve my goals. And my goals will always be realistic. And It'll always require sacrifice and hard work that I will be willing to put in for. So you have my promise that I will not stop grinding for it. I'm going to try to make that mark and to make a statement, to make a life better for the upcoming fighters, to make life more clear and the path more clear and better for the upcoming generation, where it's not necessarily always a picture of this violent animal that is just going to kill everybody that it's in their way. It doesn't always have to be like that, and that's the Habib already proved it, and that's kind of what I like and what I respect, and that's that code of honor that samurais had, that Spartans had, that gladiators had. We are the last of those men. With the 21st century, with the humankind getting this far, with all the people getting offended by this or that, and we've got all these new laws and rules, which I'm okay with. Of course, it should be like that. But there's no more those men of code that used to exist through the history of time. There's no more samurais. There's no more, there's no more Spartans. There's no more warriors like that are willing to die for something they admire and love so much. There's no more people like that are willing to bleed for, making a better life for them and their families. That's the kind of the dying out breed of men. We've got some new men, that are a little softer, that are a little different. And I'm not saying that those men didn't exist back in the day, but everybody kind of looked up to the samurais. Everybody looked up to their code, the way of sword. Everybody looked up to the Spartans, the way they do things. Everybody looked up to, different ways of the martial arts that have led us into, the 21st century. Now that has all died out, we've got the fighters, the last of the samurais. And that's kind of what I like to promote and what I like to see us as, one of those men of code, men of honor, men that fight and bleed for a living. It's not nice. It's not always nice. It's not easy. It can hurt physically, more emotionally so. But the cost to having your hand raised and winning those fights is just, there's no feeling such as, getting your hand raised in the octagon. To me, I've done a lot of sports in my life. I've trained a lot of different things. Nothing ever has. It's better than sex, man. To me, that's how I feel about it. It's just the best thing in the world.
Dude, I think there is a lot of girls, and I hopefully they don't see this video. Like, I'm gonna block all of your exes because, or even the future ones. I don't want them to see
the future exes.
The future exes.
Yeah, no, it's. But I've been trying to stay abstinent when it's the fight camp, and I don't really, There's always girls that are interested, especially now that there is fight and stuff going on. There's been a lot more interest in me than before, but for the most part, I find it as time consuming and wasteful, and I haven't met somebody that I can grow together. So when that happens, I will be ready to, move forward with such thing as relationship. And until that time, I will be married to my sport.
I love that. But the one thing that you said a couple of minutes ago is you said the world is changing, right?
Yes.
And I love how you're okay with that. Like, you have that traditional mindset that, I want to have, a wife that is a good person, that is a good woman. I want to have a family. I want to be I want to have a code. I want to have a moral standing of what I'm doing and how I'm doing things. But at the same time, you're not close-minded. A lot of people say, this is what I do, this is the only thing I do, and nothing else is better than what I do. You're not like that. You have your code, you're doing your sport, you're believing in your sport, you're saying it's the last samurai of our generations, which potentially is. I hope it's not, but you might be right about it. But at the same time, you keep your mind open while saying, well, the world is changing, that's normal. We're just going with it, and if we were the last, we're the last. If something happens tomorrow and we have to populate the Mars or anything that you were talking in the back, like any other planets and galaxies and all of that, you're fine with it. And I think that's just so great about you, and just shows how big open mind you have, that you're acceptable to all the stimulus that come around you, and you're not kind of rejecting them. You're actually thinking about them. And I think that's, one more thing why you're going to be successful is you're not rejecting information. And I think that you told me one time that you DM'd doctor on the Instagram.
Yes.
One time we were talking and you told me, I was just looking for a doctor, man. And I went on Instagram and I found the guy. And I think those are the great things, that you're always ready to find a solution. And even though you see something happening, you're okay with that and you just keep going straight. And I think that's just,
thank you, Dino.
That's just amazing.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm always about that. Life is, if you got questions, you ask them. If you need help, you ask for it. You shouldn't be ashamed of whatever it is. I've been through all kinds of situations in my life, and a lot of times I needed help. And as I said, on the interview when I was at the post-fight press conference, not once in my life I ran into no. I need help. Not once somebody told me I will not help you. And even if they specifically, the person that I've talked to didn't help me, they have pointed me out that who can help me. Hey, look, you might find this here. If you are looking for this kind of practice, or if you are looking for this kind of job, if you are looking for this kind of help, mental, physical, whatever it is, it's out there. All you got to do is ask for it. And a lot of times, even if you don't know what you're asking for, just asking something will lead you into further questions that you can ask, not only other people, the questions that you can ask yourself. Because being in peace with yourself and being true to yourself is where you want to start. Not necessarily you, generally people that are watching and everybody is, not letting this social networks and dilemma gets into your mind where, you're now this famous or this and that. What if this tomorrow we've got this, the ex-president of the United States got banned from social networks. What if you or I or somebody is the next, or, the 5 million follower model, she becomes an ordinary girl. If there's no TV, if there's no Instagram, you are no longer that 5 million follower model. I wouldn't recognize you on the street, nobody would, rarely. So this is we live in this fast-paced world where things change so drastically fast. And if you are not open-minded about it and be ready to change when the change is coming, you can greatly suffer in a lot of different ways. So nobody's asking us whether or not we're going to have a cash tomorrow or Bitcoin is going to be $100,000 per coin. And that's going to be our only way of paying for things. Nobody asked you if tomorrow is going to be another strain of virus. Those are the things you kind of have to just go with it, and you have to deal with, and you have to live through it, because that's how it was so far. We've lived through several plagues. We've lived through several, wars, world wars. Those are the things that the mortal people, the little people, have never been asked for, and they had to go through it. And I think that the adaptation, overcoming those problems, whatever they are, is the key to longevity and success.
That's great. You should definitely start looking into reading philosophical books. I think that you have a great mind for philosophy. I don't know, have you ever thought about it? But I think that if you dig your head into philosophy, you have a very, very big open area that you can put a lot of information. And I love people who are open-minded, because these are the people that are going to change the world. These are the next gen. This is the evolutionary people who stay, and the closed-minded are the people who leave. That's what's going to happen in the future. And I love, so even though you're an athlete, I think that philosophy is definitely something that I think if you work on, you're going to be so eloquent in speaking that it's just going to be so much pleasurable to talk with you about these topics that we are not as familiar with, such aliens and such a universe and galaxies and viruses.
Yes.
So that's great, man. But I guess the last thing, man, I really enjoyed the podcast. Even though we are friends, at the same time, we live separate lives, and we always find a way to catch up. And
Exactly.
it's great to talk to you. But if anything I would like out of this podcast is for you to tell potential kid who's going to watch this, and I want you to tell him what they have to do in order to find a purpose, in order to find a way to get out of any situation they're in right now, no matter is it parents, is it environment, is it school. What is that kind of major advice that you would tell to anybody to start perceiving any career, or specifically UFC, whatever is of your choosing, but something that somebody can really benefit out?
It's a good question, and I think I actually do have an answer for it right off the bat. Is you have to try to learn the things that you not want to do. What you want to do is not so important at first. What's important is knowing what you don't want to do. And to know that, you have to try. You have to try the construction business. You have to try that restaurant business. You have to wash those dishes. You have to, try to train martial arts. You have to try to do mountain biking, try to do snowboarding. Those are the things that I've tried, and I'm talking here from my personal experiences in my life that I've been through in past years. You have to, not necessarily try to hang out with the wrong people, but you'll find yourself hanging out with the wrong people, recognizing that that's not what you want to do, even though it might be fun, doing the things that you shouldn't. It gives you that way of excitement, but then recognizing that you got some kind of excitement, and then trying to find the same excitement in something that's more valuable, something that's more pleasurable, something that's right. Not wanting to find pleasures in the wrong things, in, I don't know, stealing or lying or this and that, things that lead into the rabbit holes of bad things, So to learn those things, you have to try. Learning what you don't want will certainly lead you into finding out what is it that you want, And I think that's how I've gotten here where I'm at. And I think that I will keep doing that, even though I found what I want. I will try to find more things that I like, more things that I want. I know I like nature a lot. I like animals a lot. I want to get into farming eventually, getting back into that kind of life, the simple pleasures of life is, feeding your sheep and cows that you own, and goats and chickens and whatnot, being one with the nature, having a farm, those are the kind of things that I grew up with, and that to this day I find very satisfying, and it gives me, some kind of peace inside. So yeah, that would be, my main advice is you have to get out there, you have to try things that you like, things that you don't like, you can still give it a shot and see what it is like, because until you try whatever it is, you won't know, So until you get your hands dirty and wash those dishes, you won't know whether you like it or not. I'll tell you, I don't like it, but I still do it, and just doing any kind of job that you have to do. I always think of Oprah Winfrey when she said, you got to do what you got to do until you can do what you want to do. My brother, he tells me the other day, oh man, I got to go to work, and I'm like, look, it's not that bad. I know it can be a lot better, but it can also be a lot worse, so find the balance. And he's like, well, if it's not that bad to you, why don't you go and do it then, And I tell him, look, I did it. I've been through it. I worked 2 jobs. I worked 3 jobs. I worked all kinds of stuff until I could do only what I want to do. And I'm only at the beginning of it. I can't sit over here and preach about this or that when I did nothing yet, but I will, and I'm working on it, and I have an idea of it, and whether or not that would take me to greatness, we'll see. If not, I'm still very passionate about what I'm doing, and that's the only thing that matters to me. I am already winning. Just getting here where I'm at right now, I am a huge winner from nothing, so.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a lot of people think that if you're mainstream media, that's the only time you're successful. Being a mainstream media, it doesn't necessarily mean that those are the only successful people. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of very successful people that you never heard of. And that's why I wanted to talk to you, because you are very successful in my eyes. And if I took even analytical research on you, you are very successful compared to millions of people that are trying to be like you. You're very successful. You're not successful to maybe 100 people in front of you, but that's only 100 left.
Yeah.
You passed millions of people by staying commitment, by pursuing your dream, by not caring what people think about you, by getting out of your comfortable zone, by learning how to schedule your days, how to schedule your behaviors, how to stay consistent with no matter what you do, and being courageous through all that process and believing in yourself. I mean, that's amazing. And I wish that many more people who want to be successful follow the path that you did. And for some people, it might work. For some people, somebody else's path is going to work. But kind of the fundamentals of success and the path towards the success is something that you did. And I think that's just great. So I definitely want to thank you for coming in and talking to old friend. Appreciate that. One more time. Me. I mean, absolutely, man. Congratulations on Crazy last year. And I'm looking forward to a new podcast with you, let's say 5 fights from now, and recap on what has changed. I want to meet the 4th Uros.
Okay.
We talked about the 3 Uros. I want to talk to the 4th guy. And then I want to talk to the 5th guy who's going to have the belt. So save 2 more podcasts for me. One after 5 fights, and then one after you get the belt.
You got it, Dino. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you. The questions and the subjects that we kind of touched upon, it's great. I didn't get an opportunity to talk to somebody about so many things like this, and not only focus on how did you do with your fight, what this and that. We've kind of talked about everything all over, the mindset, the heart, the things that are not related so much to the sport and the UFC, and then of course we touched the subject of the UFC as well. But a pleasure is all mine. I'm happy that you decided to do the podcast, and you definitely have the right mind and the energy for it. So we're definitely going to stay in touch, and we kind of can go from there and keep chasing our goals.
I appreciate that, man. Hopefully Monday, maybe you're going to become Khabib, and I'm going to be in a Joe Rogan chair. Who knows? Maybe this is the beginning of a dream.
Yeah. You never know. You just got to keep grinding for it.
Well, now you have something, for you to keep. I'm going to be in a Joe Rogan chair.
All righty. We're going to recap to it and see a year or 2 from now.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you, bro. Appreciate that.
I appreciate it, Dino. Thank you so much.